Once upon a time, in a busy city filled with noise and worry, there lived a man named Marcus. Marcus was like many people. He had a job, a family, and dreams for the future. But there was one thing that troubled him deeply: anxiety. It crept into his mind like a shadow, making him fear the worst in every situation. He worried about his work, his health, and even small things like what others thought of him. The more he tried to push these thoughts away, the stronger they became. One evening, after another long day of stress, Marcus sat alone in his small apartment. He felt tired, not just in his body, but in his soul. He had heard about Stoicism before, a philosophy that taught people how to stay strong in difficult times. But he had never really understood it. That night he decided to learn more. He picked up an old book written by Epictetus, a Stoic teacher from long ago. As he read, one sentence stood out to him: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." At first Marcus didn't fully grasp the meaning. How could his reaction change anything? His problems were real. His boss was demanding, his bills were piling up, and the future felt uncertain. But as he kept reading, he began to see a pattern. The Stoics believed that suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Marcus decided to test this idea. The next morning, instead of dreading his workday, he told himself, "I cannot control what my boss says or does, but I can control how I respond." When his boss criticized him, Marcus took a deep breath and reminded himself that the words only had power if he let them. To his surprise, he felt calmer. The criticism still stung, but it didn't crush him as it usually did. Days passed, and Marcus practiced this new way of thinking. He learned another Stoic lesson: to focus only on what he could control. He couldn't control traffic, but he could control whether he let it ruin his mood. He couldn't control the weather, but he could choose to dress properly. Slowly, his anxiety began to loosen its grip. Then, a real test came. Marcus received news that his company was cutting jobs, and he might lose his position. In the past, this would have sent him into panic. But now, he paused. He asked himself, what is the worst that could happen? He imagined losing his job, struggling to find another one, even facing financial hardship. But then he remembered the Stoic exercise called Premeditatio malorum, thinking about the worst-case scenario to prepare the mind. He realized that even if the worst happened, he would survive. He had skills, he had family who cared for him, and he had faced challenges before. The fear didn't disappear, but it no longer controlled him. Instead of wasting energy on worry, he began updating his resume and reaching out to contacts. He focused on action, not panic. Weeks later, Marcus was called into his boss's office. His hands were steady, his breath calm. He had prepared himself for any outcome. To his surprise, he wasn't fired. He was offered a different role, one with less stress. As he walked out of the office, he smiled. The Stoic teachings had worked. From that day on, Marcus continued to practice Stoicism. He accepted that life would always have challenges, but his power lay in his response. He no longer saw anxiety as an enemy. It was just a signal, a reminder to focus on what truly mattered. He found strength in the words of Seneca: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Years later, Marcus looked back at his journey. The city was still noisy. Life still had ups and downs, but he was no longer ruled by fear. He had learned the art of overcoming anxiety, not by avoiding difficulties, but by facing them with a calm and disciplined mind. And so the lesson remained. Anxiety does not come from the world around us, but from within. By changing how we see things, we change how they affect us. The Stoic path is not about denying emotions, but mastering them. And in that mastery, we find true inner strength,